Good afternoon and welcome to the March 4 meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. May we have roll call, please?
Authority members: Friedman.
Here.
Vinci.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Brazian.
Here.
Caro. Weaver. Chair Sinanian.
Here. May we have the report, please?
The agenda for the March 4th, 2014 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, February 27, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
What's next?
Next item is approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Minutes are approved as submitted. What is next?
Next item on the agenda is oral communication. No cards were submitted for this portion.
Oral communications are now closed. Next, please.
Any authority member or staff comments?
We have none.
We ought to say that we won't be here next week.
Yes, we will be dark next week due to a lack of quorum, and we will reconvene the week after that,
Listen to the applause.
which will be the 18th of March. And what is next on the agenda?
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned at 3:04 p.m.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Glendale City Council and the successor agency at 3:04 p.m. on March the 4th, 2014. May we have a roll call?
Council members: Friedman, Najarian,
Here.
Quintero, Sinanian,
Here?
Mayor Weaver.
Here, and for the successor agency.
Successor agency members: Friedman,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Quintero, Sinanian,
Here?
Mayor Weaver.
Here. May we have a report, please?
Agenda for the March 4th, 2014 special public meeting of the City Council and Successor Agency was posted on Thursday, February 27, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next.
The item before you today is Director of Economic Development regarding revisions to the agency's Long-Range Property Management Plan, LRPMP. 1A is a resolution to revise the LRPMP plan.
And this is a resolution by the council or successor. Which one?
Agency is an agency.
Agency? Okay. With that, Mr. Ochoa.
Yes, sir. I'll be very brief, and if you have any questions, Mr. Lanzafame and Ms. Bulbolian can answer them. You have seen this plan before. You approved this long-range property management plan, which is one of the final steps in the dissolution of redevelopment. Department of Finance, however, has kicked it back to us because there are several items where they want very specific language. For example, if we included a NA for not available in terms of information that might be needed to quantitatively list a value for a property or an asset, they would rather have us say yes or no versus the NA. We've gotten to that degree of specificity with them. The most notable things in this report that you'll see are the disposition of two particular assets: the parking lot that exists today at 300 East Broadway. You know it's at the corner of, I believe that's Louise and Broadway on the southeast corner. It's a small remnant piece. We had listed it in the long-range property management plan as no value because it's government use at this point, and under the rules of the DSP, the Downtown Specific Plan, it is undevelopable. It can only be developed if it's combined with somebody else's parcel that we don't control or own. So at this point, we listed it as having no value. The DOF has come back and said, no, you have to ascribe a value. So we have backed into a number. I believe that's $750,000. We're listing it there. If the council approves the resolution, we will move forward with the disposition, the sale, the liquidation of that asset, and we'll see what we get. We could get $750,000. My guess is that we won't get that amount. But either way, the proceeds will have to be divvied up between the various taxing entities, of which one is the City of Glendale. The others being the college, the county, and the school district. But in any event, the DOF is mandating that the city may not carry that asset forward. We have to divest of it. The other one is more of a novelty, is the arcade equipment in the former arcade where Mona is today. The assets, the rolling stock was removed. We've held on to it. We thought that they were going to require us to dispose of it. They, meaning the DOF, is basically saying take it off of the long-range property management plan. It doesn't qualify as property or as an asset as they would qualify it, and so we are asking for direction in terms of how we would dispose of it. Shall we give it to the Department of Community Services and they can put it in community centers, or give it to local nonprofits pursuant to the city's policies, or just liquidate it and sell it at auction per the city's policy. So we're looking for direction there. If you have any specific items about the several comments made by DOF and our responses to them, again, Mr. Lanzafame and Ms. Boboling can do that.
Ms. Friedman.
About the arcade equipment, I know that some arcade equipment, if it's older, can be quite valuable as a collector's item. So I think we should first have it appraised and just see if there's any, anything old and funky and valuable, and if so, sell that. And then the rest of it, it would be great to have it in our community centers and our recreation rooms. So that would be my preference, and failing that, if there's too much of it, then some of it, I think, going to the YMCA, other places if they want it, and then my third choice would be to sell the rest.
Do we know how many pieces there are?
We did have all of the games appraised. Unfortunately, an appraiser looks at it, with blinders, and says, this is the salvage value. You may get a collector that will pay much more.
Well, wait,
So,
when you say you had it appraised, by who?
by an appraiser that would come out.
No, I thought that it's an appraiser. What kind of an appraiser was it?
A fixtures and equipment appraiser.
Okay, you need to get somebody who specializes in arcade games, if there's anything that's more than 10 years old, I think. Because I know some of those games, Pac-Man, the early games can be really valuable. You don't want to sell that as scrap or put it in a rec room or something like that where it's going to get broken. So I think you had the wrong kind of appraiser out looking at it.
Yes. What I would say is if you did want to sell them, and I guess we would have to do that type of appraisal to select which ones, they would go to bid or auction, and so that market would dictate what it is. We wouldn't put a sales price on it.
Well, my point is that I think if there's anything particularly valuable, that should be cherry-picked out and sold. But the rest of it, if it's not valuable, that can go in the rec rooms, that kind of thing.
If in that event, though, it may be worthwhile just to divest ourselves of machines either that aren't working well or that weren't popular then and probably wouldn't be popular.
Absolutely.
And tell somebody, you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, you're taking the whole lot, depending on what an auction might fetch us. But if the council said, nope, don't even go to auction, put it at one of our community centers, we could do that. But in hearing what you're saying, is maybe we just go to auction, see what the market price is, and that might be the end of it.
That's fine with me. But I just thought if Parks and Recreation thought they could use some of it, that it would be fun to have for their rec rooms, then we should take those games out and give it to them. I have a question about the parking lots. What about the other parking lots? Are they all going, those were redevelopment agency owned, weren't
Those
they?
are in the parking fund, I believe. This one was a remnant piece of our old redevelopment project that was still retained by the redevelopment agency.
So none of the other lots were...
They are not in jeopardy, I don't believe.
Glad to hear it.
Just a clarification, the only parking lot was the one at Central and Wilson where the Courtyard by Marriott goes. That was all the others are city lots.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to my question, how many how many of the slots and everything are there? 5, 10, 20, 30?
How many games are there?
Yeah, games, call them games.
There's over 100.
Okay.
And there are different types.
No, I just
Sorry, about 70 different types. There are some Lady Pac-Man and some that collectors really desire.
So a collector will come and appraise, pull those ones out, and then diverse the other 70 different places?
We've had the interest from about 5 different people. 2 or 3 of them said we'll take the whole lot. Others have said we'd like to pick specific ones.
Yeah, since my older brother-in-law, that's all he does on weekends in Hawaii, goes on yard sales. And boy, has he found some nuggets. He'll buy stuff the seller doesn't have any idea the value in some things. So I think getting a specialist in...
Why don't you invite him over for a visit?
I thought about that. I could do one hell of a good yard sale. Anyhow, Mr. Najarian?
So my thoughts are pretty much along the lines with the city manager, that these machines can be very costly and troublesome to maintain and find parts for. So if we're going to divest of them, we should probably make it as a fire lot. And it'd be great to get a good idea as to what it is, and if it is going to go to an auction, I think we should have some sort of reserve price set that's in the ballpark as to their value.
I don't mind an appraiser coming out and, as Freeman said, if there's a specialist appraiser on that stuff, he pulls out one or two and there's 68, and do what you're saying. Find out which ones will operate or not, or sell the whole lot. Leave it up to staff. Mr. Sinania?
With respect to the Maryland Exchange Commercial Building, those are going to go up for sale? So some of them are currently, well, all of them are currently leased, right? There are tenants in there now.
I believe we're in eviction. Sorry, I believe we're in eviction procedures on one or two. Oh, two or three.
Eviction in the sense that they're not paying?
They haven't paid, correct.
Okay. To the extent that they are paying, could we, I don't know, I'm just thinking these people have done business, I assume, in Glendale, doing currently business in Glendale. Can we give them some kind of a right of first refusal if there's a market price that they can, so that, their business is not necessarily interrupted in any way?
We can certainly ask the Department of Finance if the rules allow us to do that,
Okay.
or last and best type of thing. My guess is that none of them have the resources to buy the whole building, but we would certainly sell the property subject to existing enforceable leases, and they would continue their tenancies.
So this is really one building. It's not a series of, it's not something
Correct.
that can be.
It's one parcel and they're individual units, but it acts as one building.
So I'm looking at the parcel chart, and are there other buildings that are adjacent to this specific one, 117 to 131, that are there that remain to be city owned?
Yes.
There are. Okay.
It's the Exchange Garage. When it was built, they actually separated a parcel, made a separate parcel for those commercial storefronts. Those were supposed to have been conveyed to a developer. In fact, they were. The developer defaulted, and they came back to the redevelopment agency. The balance, the larger parcel is the garage.
Okay.
And then there's a lobby, an elevator lobby, that has its own parcel. Those two should be in the city's ownership.
Okay. So other than the lobby and the garage and the specific property that's at issue right now, there's nothing else left on Maryland that's city owned that's being leased out right now.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay. I just wanted to have a clear understanding. Thank you.
Agency owned, I would say.
Agency owned,
Because the
yes.
city does own
Right.
the marketplace garage.
Okay, are there additional questions? I guess you want direction on the,
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. Just one more quick question. So how does the actual sale take place? Are we the ones selling it, or?
The successor agency would go through the process outlined by the state to dispose of the asset.
Yeah, but we are the ones implementing that process.
Yeah, we would execute it.
Okay, thank you.
okay, on the, more questions on the games first. How are we going to give direction on that? Is it appraiser comes and looks,
And make sure that the appraiser knows that they are not purchasing any of them.
and then leave it to staff whether to auction, because if they're not repairable, just auction them as scrap metal or whatever. But if you find any, maybe turn them over to the ARC or something. I don't know.
Just one caveat. Can we put a ceiling on the value of the appraisal? Because if they come in, they say it's going to cost me, it's going to cost the city $20,000 to do the appraisal. It's kind of counterintuitive if the total value we're looking at it now is below $100,000.
Well, maybe a combination of what all the council members are suggesting is in terms of the existing appraisal maybe serving as a reserve, and then as we go out to bid, based on the interest that we've received already from a number of collectors, you're going to see that number start to escalate well above even what the appraised value is. If you want to verify that with somebody else, we probably can, and maybe that would, at that point in time, give us effectively provide a cap for us in terms of retaining a separate third-party appraiser to make sure we're getting full value. Because if the auction were to yield $20,000, just for sake of argument, and an appraisal costs us $15,000, then why do the appraisal? But if it's netting us 150 and that appraisal maybe costs us $7,000, well, that'd be worthwhile to do.
Let me just say, as somebody who's in this business, the antiques business, there's no way the appraisal should cost you $7,000.
How much?
It shouldn't cost $7,000. I mean, I can just tell you from being hired to appraise items myself that you should be able to get someone good for under $2,000.
I guess
Especially since most of these machines, my guess is they're just going to dismiss out of hand, and there'll be 3 or 4 of them that they're really looking at. So, I mean, even less than that, I've appraised 100 items for less than $1,000, so.
I guess then we're saying, let staff that got the direction, bottom line is we want money.
Understand? Yes.
Is that okay on that point? And on the lot, we want to sell it?
You have to sell it.
Okay, but not to ourselves.
If you wanted to buy, a fair question, if you wanted the parking fund to go buy it, I would recommend against it because parking fund doesn't have the cushion to go and do that, and it underperforms as a parking lot.
So you're recommending that we sell it to,
Per the state of California, yes, we would divest of this parking. this
see if
property.
anybody bids on it?
And truly, somebody, the prices may be driven down to such a degree if it's undevelopable as it sits, maybe if we have an appraised value or an estimated value rather of 750, sake of argument again, let's say nobody wants to buy it and speculate that they can acquire the other pieces, that could drive down the value at auction, and we'd have to go back to the State Department of Finance and say, well, what now, guys? You told us we have to divest of it. Nobody wants to buy it. Should we hold it in as government use still?
Yeah, or we can buy it for $100 then.
And at some point, it would make sense for the parking fund to purchase it. We just don't know what that is today. We'll have to go through the auction and let the market tell us.
Is anybody okay there too? Okay, well, there's an agency motion, resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Agency members Friedman.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Quintero. Sinanian.
Yes.
Chair Weaver.
Aye. Thank you. And next?
Next is we require motions to adjourn both the council and the successor agency.
Move to adjourn both council and the successor agency.
Second.
Okay, we stand adjourned on both at 3:20 p.m. you.